Asia Bibi is the Christian Pakistani woman sentenced to death for blasphemy. She's now been released, and she's looking for a Western country in which to safely live. I spoke with Dr. Zuhdi Jasser about that, the founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. He wants Donald Trump to bring Asia Bibi into the United States. There's also questions whether or not Canada's involved. Canada's been very cautious about what they've had to say. Dr. Jasser, thank you for the time. Tell us, please, what your thoughts are about Asia Bibi, the crime she was alleged to have committed, and the fact she now is having difficulty finding a country she can go to that has the courage to accept her.
I mean, it's not only one story. There are so many like her, but it's a teaching moment. And I'll remind folks that she's been in prison in solitary confinement since 2010, and judges finally released her on appeal, and they threw out her conviction because there was no evidence. And one judge recused himself because he was threatened and worried about violence. So now, after 8 years in solitary confinement, she wasn't in general population because they were worried she'd be killed. That's supposedly the justification for her torture in solitary confinement. But bottom line is, this is a point where it's really, I think, and we called for the Trump administration to grant her asylum, because you could change the narrative on immigration while also doing what's right for human rights and her freedom of religion and free speech. And, you know, that's, I think, an opportunity that should not be missed.
You know, it's so disturbing that no Western nation has stood up and said, we will take this woman into our country. And no, there have been talks about the Netherlands, perhaps, and Canada says, or at least one of the MPs who's a parliamentary secretary to the Foreign Affairs Minister says Canada is involved in delicate negotiations, whatever that means. Nobody's had the guts to stand up and say, we'll take her.
And not only have they not said that, the UK specifically rejected it, saying they were worried about mobs and violence and other things, and said they didn't want to accept the security risk. What do our countries in the West stand for now if we can't accept dissidents, if we can't accept those that are not free in these oppressive quasi-theocracies? And what does freedom in America and Canada and Britain mean if we're going to be worried about the Islamist mob as being able to veto any sense of individual freedom? And if you want Muslims to reform and begin to embrace Western values, then you need to use these individuals like Asia Bibi, like Malala, like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, and others to learn from them as a moment in which we need to look at our supposed values and hold them accountable.
Do you have any sense that the Trump administration will take action and allow this woman into the United States?
You know, as some of us have been saying, I'm surprised it hasn't come up. Maybe they're working behind the scenes, and it wouldn't be just her. She's 48 years old. She has 4 children. Her whole family needs to come because they won't be safe either. It's a tribal thing. Many of the times these blasphemy laws are used as settling scores. I hope it's being done behind the scenes, but there's been no signs yet. We may not hear about it until she's actually on American soil, but no, we've not heard anything specific yet.
And I have Justin Trudeau's tweet sitting in front of me, January 28th, 2017, 4:20 p.m. To those fleeing persecution, terror, and war, Canadians will welcome you regardless of your faith. Diversity is our strength. # welcome to Canada. Well, they're in delicate negotiations.
Yeah, and yet terrorists and others are paid $10 million for false imprisonment in Guantanamo, when we now find out that the 5 freed for Bergdahl in exchange for the traitor Bergdahl ended up joining leadership of radical organizations. So it's bizarre.
It is bizarre. It is bizarre. Dr. Jasser, thank you for the time.
Anytime. Thanks, Roy.
Always good talking to you, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, the founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy.